A tropical low in the Coral Sea, severe thunderstorm potential across Queensland, and the question on everyone's mind, will this develop into a tropical cyclone? That's what we need to examine. I've been monitoring the latest data from the Bureau of Meteorology, comparing the major forecast models and looking at what this system might do over the next 7 to 10 days. There's a fair bit to unpack here, so let's get straight into it. Right now across North Queensland, conditions have been hot and humid. Mount Carbine hit 30 degrees by 8:30 this morning with 85% humidity. By mid-morning, too hot to work outside. Yesterday peaked at 35. That is the pattern we've been seeing right across far North Queensland for the past week. Darwin S sitting at its typical tropical heat. Day after day of high temperatures, whether at S dry or humid, that S just the top end during the build-up. Compare that to what S happening offshore. Out in the Coral Sea, we've got a tropical low that's been designated as System 17U by the Bureau. This low has been sitting northeast of Queensland, and the critical question is whether it has the ingredients to intensify into a tropical cyclone. Let us talk about what we're actually looking at here. This isn't some massive, well-organised system bearing down on the coast. It is a tropical low, a broad area of low pressure with thunderstorm activity, but not yet at cyclone strength. The distinction matters. For a tropical low to become a cyclone, you need several things working together. Warm sea surface temperatures, check. We've got that across the Coral Sea. Low wind shear. That S, where it gets interesting, high-level winds that would tear the system apart need to stay calm. And the system needs time over open water to organise itself. The access model, that is the Bureau S primary forecast model, has been showing this low meandering around the Coral Sea over the next few days. Not rapidly intensifying, not charging towards the coast, just sitting out there slowly organising. The GFS model, the American global model, shows similar behaviour. The European model agrees with the general pattern. When all three major models are telling you roughly the same story, you pay attention. What they're re-showing is a system that might gradually intensify, but the window for significant development is narrow. By the weekend, environmental conditions start to become less favourable. Wind shear increases. That tends to disrupt tropical systems before they can really get going. Now, I'm not saying this system is harmless. Even if it stays as a tropical low and never reaches cyclone strength, it's still capable of producing significant weather, heavy rainfall, strong wind gusts in thunderstorms, rough seas. These are the impacts we need to focus on, regardless of whether it gets a name. For those along the North Queensland coast from Cairns up to Cape York, you're looking at increased shower and thunderstorm activity as moisture from this system gets drawn towards the coast. Not continuous rain, not a deluge, but scattered heavy showers and storms, particularly during the afternoons and evenings. Rainfall totals through to the weekend could reach 50 to 100 millimetres in some areas, locally higher where thunderstorms develop. That S useful rain for some areas, but it also brings the risk of localised flooding, particularly in areas that have already seen recent rain. The Atherton Tablelands, you are in the firing line for some of these storms. Orographic lift as moisture hits the ranges means you will likely see higher totals than coastal areas. Keep an eye on creek levels if you are in low-lying areas. For Townsville and the surrounding regions, scattered thunderstorms are likely from Wednesday through to Saturday. Not every day, not all day, but when they develop, they could be severe. Heavy rainfall rates, damaging wind gusts, large hail all possible with the more intense cells, Mackay down through to the Whitsundays. Uari on the southern fringe of this moisture. Less activity than further north, but still the chance of isolated storms, particularly later in the week. Now, let's talk about the Coral Sea itself and what this means for marine interests. Sea state is going to deteriorate over the next few days. Winds around the low will generate rough to very rough seas, swells building to 2 to 3 metres, possibly higher closer to the low centre. If you've got a fishing charter booked for late January off Bundaberg, you're right to be checking the forecast carefully. At this stage, the last weekend of January is still a week and a half away. Too early to make a definitive call, but the pattern suggests unsettled conditions are likely to persist. Keep monitoring the Bureau S marine warnings as we get closer to the date. Norfolk Island has been getting some moisture from this system as well, not directly impacted by the low itself, but cloud and showers associated with the broader tropical moisture. Nothing severe, but worth noting for those keeping an eye on conditions out there. Let's put this system into some historical context. Tropical lows in the Coral Sea during January aren't unusual. It's cyclone season, November through April. We expect to see these systems develop. The question is always whether they intensify and where they track. Most tropical lows never become cyclones. They sit out at sea, produce some rain and rough conditions, then dissipate. That appears to be the most likely scenario here. But we've also seen systems that looked unimpressive suddenly organise and intensify when conditions aligned. Cyclone Yassi back in 2011 started as a tropical low near Fiji. It intensified rapidly as it tracked west. By the time it made landfall near Mission Beach, it was a Category 5. Winds up to 285 kilometres per hour. Catastrophic damage across North Queensland. I'm not suggesting this system will follow that path. The environmental conditions are different, the track is different, but it's a reminder that tropical systems demand respect and attention even when they don't look particularly threatening on the satellite imagery. The Bureau of Meteorology has this system under close surveillance. They're reissuing regular updates. If the situation changes, if the low shows signs of rapid intensification, warnings will be upgraded accordingly. For now, the official stance is that this system has a low to moderate chance of developing into a tropical cyclone over the next few days. That assessment could change. These systems can be unpredictable. Environmental conditions can shift. A low that looks stable can suddenly find a window of opportunity and intensify. What does this mean for practical preparation? If you are in North Queensland, you should already have your wet season preparedness sorted. This is the time of year when you expect storms, heavy rain, and the possibility of cyclones. Make sure you've got your emergency kit ready, torch with spare batteries, battery-powered radio, first aid supplies, enough non-perishable food and water for at least 3 days. If the power goes out during a severe storm, you want to be prepared. Secure loose items around your property, outdoor furniture, trampolines, anything that could become a projectile in strong winds. Even if this system doesn't intensify into a cyclone, severe thunderstorms can produce damaging wind gusts. Check your gutters and downpipes. Heavy rainfall can overwhelm drainage systems. Make sure water can flow away from your house. Clear any debris that might cause blockages. If you're in a flood-prone area, know your local flood risk, know the evacuation routes, know where to go if you need to leave quickly. The SES reminds everyone, if it's flooded, forget it. Never drive through flood water. Depth is deceptive, currents are strong, and it only takes half a metre of water to float a car. For those working in remote areas, particularly in the Pilbara, I know some of you are hoping for a cyclone to trigger an evacuation and an early flight home. I get it. Working away is tough, but be careful what you wish for. Cyclones are dangerous events. Property damage, power outages, infrastructure disruption. It's not just a free ticket home. Now, beyond this tropical low, let us look at the broader pattern across Queensland and what is driving these conditions. We've got a monsoon trough sitting across the north. That is typical for January. It is a zone of low pressure where trade winds from the northern and southern hemispheres converge. Along this trough, you get thunderstorm development, heavy rain, and occasionally tropical cyclones. The position and strength of the monsoon trough fluctuate. Sometimes it sits further north over Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. Sometimes it drops south across northern Australia. Right now it is positioned across the top end and Cape York, which is why we're re-seeing this active weather. Sea surface temperatures across the Coral Sea and Gulf of Carpentaria are sitting at 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. That's warm enough to support tropical cyclone development. You generally need at least 26.5 degrees for cyclogenesis. We read comfortably above that threshold. Upper level winds, that winds at around 10 to 12 kilometres altitude, have been relatively light across the region. That good for tropical development because it means less wind shear to disrupt the system. But forecasts suggest that wind shear will increase from Saturday onward as an upper level trough approaches from the west. That increasing wind shear is one of the main reasons the models aren't showing significant intensification beyond the next few days. Once wind shear ramps up, it becomes much harder for a tropical system to maintain its structure or intensify further. The Madden-Julian Oscillation, the MJO, has been in a phase that is generally supportive of tropical activity in the Australian region, but it is weakening and shifting eastward. By early February, the MJO influence becomes less favourable. That is another factor limiting the window for development. Let's talk about severe thunderstorms specifically, because even without a cyclone, that is a significant risk over the next week. Severe thunderstorms require 3 ingredients: moisture, instability, and a trigger mechanism. We've got all 3 across Queensland right now. Moisture is abundant. Dew points, that as the temperature at which air becomes saturated, are sitting in the mid-20s across North Queensland. That tropical air mass. High humidity. The fuel for thunderstorm development, instability, is strong. During the afternoon, surface heating creates rising air currents. That warm, moist air shoots upward, cools, condenses, and you get towering cumulonimbus clouds. Thunderstorm factories' trigger mechanisms include the sea breeze along the coast, the monsoon trough, and the tropical low itself. All of these features provide the lift needed to kickstart thunderstorm development. When these storms develop, they can produce several hazards. Heavy rainfall leading to flash flooding. We're talking rainfall rates of 50 to 100 millimetres in an hour or less. Urban areas with poor drainage can flood quickly. Water over roads, driveways becoming creeks. Damaging wind gusts are possible with the stronger cells. Downbursts, where rain-cooled air descends rapidly and spreads out at the surface, can generate wind gusts of 80 to 100 kilometres per hour, enough to bring down tree branches, damage roofs, and cause power outages. Large hail is less common in tropical environments compared to further south, but it's still possible with the most intense supercell thunderstorms. Hail forms in strong updrafts where raindrops are carried high into the atmosphere and freeze. If you see a storm approaching with a dark green tinge to the cloud base, that's often a sign of hail. Lightning is a given with any thunderstorm. Australia has one of the highest lightning strike rates in the world. If you can hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck. The old saying, if thunder roars, go indoors, is spot on. Don T, wait until the rain starts. Get inside when you hear thunder. For those in agricultural areas, thunderstorms bring mixed blessings. Rain is welcome if you've been dry, but severe storms can damage crops, flatten fields, and cause erosion. Heavy rain on already saturated ground can lead to waterlogging. Keep an eye on bureau warnings and radar if storms are approaching during critical times like harvest or spraying operations. Livestock need shelter during severe storms. Cattle and sheep can be spooked by thunder and lightning. Make sure they have access to safe areas away from isolated trees, which can attract lightning strikes. Now, what about the rest of Queensland? Not everyone is in the firing line for this tropical activity. Southeast Queensland, from Brisbane down to the Gold Coast, you are largely removed from the direct impacts of this coral sea low. Your weather over the next week will be driven more by the usual summer pattern. Morning sunshine, afternoon sea breezes, hit and miss thunderstorms in the afternoons. Temperatures in Brisbane will stay in the low 30s. Warm but not extreme. Humidity will be noticeable but not as oppressive as what they're experiencing further north. The Wide Bay region, Bundaberg, Hervey Bay, you are in a transition zone. Some moisture from the northern activity might drift south, increasing your thunderstorm chances later in the week. But widespread heavy rain is unlikely. Central Queensland, Rockhampton through to Gladstone, similar story. Isolated to scattered thunderstorms, not the organised widespread activity we're seeing further north. Inland Queensland, west of the ranges, you will stay mostly dry. The moisture is concentrated along the coast and offshore. Longreach, Charleville, those areas will see mostly sunny conditions with just the occasional afternoon storm. The Gulf country from Normanton across to the Northern Territory border, you are under the influence of the monsoon trough. Expect daily thunderstorms, some severe. Heavy rainfall totals possible. Roads can become impassable quickly during the wet season. If you're travelling in remote areas, carry extra supplies and check road conditions before you leave. Let us circle back to the tropical low and what happens from here. Over the next 48 hours, the low will continue drifting slowly across the Coral Sea. It's not moving quickly in any particular direction, just meandering. During this time, it has the opportunity to organise and potentially intensify. The Bureau will continue issuing updates every 6 to 12 hours. If the low shows signs of significant development, you will see the language in the warnings change. Terms like watch and act or prepare to evacuate would indicate the situation has escalated. By Friday or Saturday, the low should start to feel the effects of increasing wind shear. That tends to weaken or at least prevent further intensification. The most likely scenario is the low gradually weakens and dissipates over the Coral Sea without making landfall. However, if it does intensify into a cyclone and track towards the coast, the areas most at risk would be between Cairns and Cooktown, that S based on the current model guidance. But cyclone tracks can be erratic. A slight shift in steering currents can change the projected path significantly. This is why we monitor, we prepare, but we don't panic. We've got time, we've got good forecasting tools. The Bureau does an excellent job tracking these systems. You'll get advance warning if the situation deteriorates. For those of you who lived through Cyclone Yasi, you know what a serious tropical cyclone looks like. You know the preparation required. You know the impacts. This system, at least as it currently stands, is not Yasi. It is a tropical low with uncertain development potential. That said, even a weak system can cause problems. Cyclone Oswald in 2013 was only a Category 1 when it made landfall, but it produced widespread flooding across Queensland and northern New South Wales. Ex-tropical cyclone Debbie in 2017 weakened to a rain depression but caused catastrophic flooding in southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales. The intensity category isn't always the full story. Sometimes it's the rainfall, sometimes it is the storm surge, sometimes it is just the timing and location. What's the bottom line here? We have a tropical low in the Coral Sea. It has some potential to develop into a tropical cyclone over the next few days, but environmental conditions are expected to become less favourable by the weekend. Even if it doesn't reach cyclone strength, it is contributing to unsettled weather across North Queensland with heavy rain, thunderstorms and rough seas. Stay informed. Check the Bureau of Meteorology website regularly. They've got excellent tropical cyclone tracking maps, warnings and forecast discussions. The information is there. It's detailed. It's updated frequently. Don't rely on social media for your weather information. Check official sources. The Bureau, your state emergency service. Not someone mate who reckons they know what happening because they looked at a satellite image. If warnings are issued for your area, take them seriously. Prepare, secure your property, stock up on essentials, have a plan, but don't panic. These systems are manageable if you are prepared and informed. And remember, we were only in January. Cyclone season runs through to April. This one to be the last system we see this year. It's worth using this as a reminder to check your cyclone preparedness. Make sure your emergency kit is up to date. Make sure your family knows the plan. Make sure you ready. The weather across Queensland over the next week will be unsettled. North Queensland copping the worst of it with heavy showers, thunderstorms and the ongoing question mark about this Coral Sea low. Further south, typical summer weather with afternoon storms. Keep monitoring the forecasts, stay safe. And if you're in one of those areas waiting for rain, you might just get your wish over the next few days. Just be careful what you wish for because heavy rain can bring its own problems. That's where we stand. I'll continue monitoring this system and provide updates as the situation develops. Check back for the latest information and in the meantime, stay informed.